let's get started. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. Fun.
Okay, so if you guys want, go ahead and introduce yourselves and we'll kind of go from there. Like we can talk about true crime, we can talk about your paranormal, whatever it is that you guys want to do. Just
So I am Rikki Rockett. I'm the
kidding.
drummer for Poison, but I'm also part of Taps West Coast. And I have a YouTube channel called Rikki Rockett's Legend Tripping. And here's a story of a girl named Tracy. I feel like we're the
Hi,
Brady
Trace.
Bunch.
I know.
So yeah, I'm Tracy, and I'm just an enthusiast. Always had an interest in the paranormal, and have had some interesting ghost stories. So I love to share them. So thank you again, Renee, for inviting us. I really appreciate it. Awesome.
Super excited. This
I'm
is my
excited.
third one. All right. So, what kind of got you into the whole paranormal, like paranormal investigations, Rikki?
So I had a mom that was probably shouldn't have done what she did. And that's take me to horror movies when I was very young. So that's probably why I do it with my kids, right? But I got really interested in all that kind of stuff. But one day we got in the mail, and I still have it. It's kind of a mess to get at right now, but there was an encyclopedia called Man, Myth, and Magic. And you could buy one and then buy one every month or something. And so I just read it cover to cover, and it was A. So everything, I think A or maybe A and B, everything that falls under those names, right? Alchemy, whatever. And read that. And then the next month, the B came out with everything that had to do with Beelzebub, like everything with
Oh,
bees
wow.
in it. So it's called Man, Myth, and Magic. And so my mom wound up buying the whole encyclopedia thing, and I read every single one from cover to cover. And I just fell in love with all the idea. I started to really um, get interested, and Ed and Lorraine Warren, who wound up. I'm from Harrisburg, PA, and they came and visited Harrisburg when I was in high school. And my friend Kitty, who was also interested in paranormal, we went together to see them speak. And, obviously at the time they were both still alive, and they had just investigated the Amityville house. So what do? I go to the Amityville house because Amityville, New York was just a couple of hours away, so not that big of a drive. And so I think I've gone to that house at least a dozen times now.
I've been there
Uh,
once.
I've never been there.
really?
Hmm.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've never
So
been there.
Long
so that
Island.
was one. So I got interested in that, and Hans Holzer, who's kind of like the OG guy of all that stuff. And then I noticed there were certain things that were cheesy that really didn't lend itself to anything truly paranormal or out of the ordinary. And then I noticed some things that were way more freaky than I feel like we ever really gave it credit for. And I just stayed with that interest, like pretty much all my life. I've always been interested in horror and dark tourism and all that kind of stuff. I take photographs of dilapidated buildings and crumbling urban environments. That's like my jam. And you wouldn't think of it because I'm in a band that's nothing but a good time, right? And you know we're um we're the party band, and there is completely that side to me, obviously. But there's also this other side to me where I'm interested in those things. And I think I've talked way too much and haven't given Tracy a chance to talk. So I will shut up for a minute.
You're
You can
good.
talk all you want, Ricky. No
Yeah.
problem.
So, what about you, Tracy? What got you zoned in on like the paranormal world?
Well, I think for me, it was because I grew up Ricky also grew up back east. So I'm from Virginia and lived in some very old houses as a child. And I remember one house in particular. This was a really like a mansion that was split like a duplex. Beautiful
Okay.
house. And my bedroom had hardwood floors. And if I recall, I had one of those bay windows. It was really lovely. But I would lay in bed at night when it was my, time to go to sleep. And I was maybe 6 or 7 years old. And I would see on the ceiling things floating around, but I never felt afraid. Like I knew it was something and I could tell, but I was mesmerized by it. And I would just lay there and watch these things float on my ceiling and
Were
then
they
finally fall asleep.
kind of
But I
like
didn't run away from
orbs?
it.
Were they like kind of like orbs at all? Or
Kind of like orbs, very, very bright and colorful. And sometimes they would grow and then they would get smaller and they would just kind of move about the ceiling. It was extremely interesting. And so that was the first thing where I didn't have a fear of it. In fact, it made me more curious. So I think
yeah,
I've been that way my entire life.
that's really cool. Have any of you had like what was the scariest thing that's ever happened? Like what really freaked you out with an experience that you endured?
I have one, but I'll let Ricky go ahead if he,
Okay.
I'll let him go first.
I just wrote a story about it in a book. The book's forthcoming, and it's a volume two. And they asked me if I would write something, and they'd consider putting it in. And I've investigated a lot of stuff on my YouTube channel, and it's prior to my YouTube channel, and besides my YouTube channel. There were some times that Cops West Coast, like for example, last Friday, where we were asked to investigate a house and they don't want anything on social media. They want to be completely anonymous. And that happens quite a bit. And so we get to experience things and share it among the members, but we don't get to talk about it and publicly, or at least reveal the names of the people and all that kind of stuff, because they want, and that's, completely reasonable. But anyway, one of the things that did freak me out was it's the on Highway 134, and Tracy and I talked about this before, and she's probably going to chime in when I say this. And it's the whole lady in white thing, okay? And there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of ladies in white. There's ladies in white in Europe. There's ladies in white in Virginia. I mean, so this is what I call traveling legends, urban legends, where it's either a phenomenon that's universal, or people are borrowing urban legends to give their town some kind of oomph, right? Some street cred.
Yep.
Um, so I thought that this location was just that. So there's a sycamore tree, and there's been several stories about what has happened there. But one of the most compelling stories is that a woman was going to marry this one of the landowners there, and at that time she was Latino. I think I don't want to say slaves, but they were kind of indentured servitude at the time, at least. And she was very pretty, and the owner took a liking to her, and they wound up getting together. And some of the other women were making fun of her and this and that, and calling her names. And
Oh.
so they were going to get married, and she put on her wedding dress, apparently, and he backed out. The pressure was too much. He couldn't marry a Latino girl, even
Oh.
though he was of Latin descent. Um, and she hung herself in that tree, and in the wedding dress. Okay,
Oh my
apparently
goodness.
that's the urban legend. Okay, so and then now there's other stories about when the dam broke, that this woman was clinging to a tree and finally died clinging to the tree. So this tree is involved in all of it, no matter what, the sycamore tree. And you can drive along 134 and look at that sycamore tree anytime. So one day, just a year ago, approximately, after I had done the video, and you can go look at my video, I've been there twice in my videos. I took the kids. The first time I went, I got a choking feeling. I mean, literally. Okay, now I went through stage 4 oral cancer, so I didn't think
Oh.
much of it. Sometimes I can get allergic reactions if I'm eating something and a little something goes in my throat doesn't react like a normal person, right? But this didn't feel like that. I'm also a jujitsu guy. I've been choked out thousands of times, right? it felt like somebody grabbed a hold of me like this and was choking me. That's what it felt
Wow.
like.
That's
Okay.
crazy.
So
Wow.
I walked away from that, and then I didn't return for a long time. And I'm coming back one day after I met up with my friend Rob Day for this Harley thing that he was doing. He was testing stuff out. He does lessons and things like that. And I'm coming back on the motorcycle, and I go, I'm going to stop at that tree and take a picture. And I have that picture, by the way. And I pulled right up in front of the tree on the motorcycle, and I get a selfie, right? I'm like, yeah, this is a sycamore tree, blah, 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 you know. And I take this picture and I go, okay, it's time to go. I could not move my feet. It was almost like the vines wrapped around, and I'm sitting there. Am I just
Oh
in
my
the?
God.
Am I just in a weird spot? Like, let's be reasonable here. Like, could this happen to me anyway? At any time? So I'm literally yanking as hard as I can, and so I started the bike and started to pull out, and when I did, my leg was still caught. So now my leg's dragging, and I'm like, if I stop now, I'm gonna fall over. Or
Oh my
it's
gosh.
gonna bend my leg back, you know. So I mean, I just literally gunned it and pulled out of it. I swear to God, I almost did a wheelie, and I was on a big bike.
Whew.
And so all of a sudden, this guy on a motorcycle pulls in, and he's like, did you see some people go by on motorcycles? And I'm like, well, yeah, but it's a Sunday. You see a lot of that. And he goes, huh, wow, what's this tree? And I said, you don't want anything to do with this tree. And I said, where do you live? And he said, I live in Valencia, and I've lost the people that I'm with. And I said, well, I'll ride back with you. I'm going to Castaic. And he goes, yeah, that'd be great. I appreciate it. So we started off, he pulled out, I pulled out, I'm following him. And all of a sudden, he just gets off on this one road. I don't see any other motorcycles. I don't see anything. Gets off on the road, and I couldn't turn quick enough. You know what I mean? Like it was sudden. So I had to go up like maybe a couple blocks, turn around in the street, came back. I don't see him. I don't see him. I'm like, where did you go? What the hell, dude? Like, are you trying to ditch me? Like, all I was trying to do is be, right?
Yes, be
So
nice to you. Help you out.
I'm like driving, and I go past the sycamore tree again, right? He's off to the side of the tree.
No way.
And I'm like,
What?
wow, why did he drive back there? Right. Maybe, and then so just logic kicks in, and I'm thinking, well, maybe he thinks his friends lost him in that area. So maybe he should go back to that area and hang out. So I turn around quickly this time, maybe one block, and I turn around, and I'm just going to be like, dude, I just, want to make sure you're good. I come back, not around, not around at all. I mean, if you drive up, it's just an orchard,
Oh
or
my
there's
goodness.
nothing there. There are people that live up there, but they have something to do with the orchards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't just live up in that area just to live up there. And so I'm looking around, I'm driving around, I pull back out, turn around, start driving slow. And I'm just like, I look back at that tree, and I'm just like, I don't care if I ever go by you again. I mean, really, like something is freaking wrong with
Wow.
you.
That's
So
wild.
that was the second time, and just the circumstances were just so weird. You know what I mean? And I was out of there.
I would have hightailed it out of there too. Been like, bye.
Uh,
That's wow.
Well,
That's
see, I'm curious, Rikki, because I thought that Our Lady in White was the same person. That might not be the same one. So
maybe.
the one that I saw was off the 126, also by the orchards.
Oh, I mean the
So
126. I'm
so
saying
it is the same person. Okay.
Ventura Freeway, going to Santa Barbara, that freeway, going to all
The
that.
126 going towards Ventura
yeah,
and
Ventura
then
Freeway.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. Okay. So, do you want to hear my story?
Yes. Yes, I do.
So I had actually, and I forget why, this is when my ex and I were together and we were in Fillmore and we wanted to drive back in the orchards and we found this very old cemetery. And I'm always intrigued by them, of course. And then I wanted to Google search if there was any kind of lair. And of course there was. The morning lady in white was the article that I found. So of course I found interest in this, but I had not gone back to do anything about it. So I want to say that it was August of 2013. I had a very newly baking Xavier in my tummy,
Oh, little
so
babies.
very early on. And I had a friend come into town with her teenagers. And at the time, my two older kids were, they were little still. They were pretty young. We were trying to find something to entertain both the teenagers and the younger kids. So we went to the skate park in Fomar. And when they closed the park and it was getting dark, we weren't ready to go home yet. The kids were still on summer break. It was a weekend. And I had this idea because we used to have family ghost story night every Friday. We'd watch ghost stories, the
I
kids
didn't
and
know
I.
that.
And they've always been intrigued and interested in it as well. So we went to the cemetery. But I thought that my 8-week pregnant self shouldn't be running around in cemeteries at night. So I stayed in the car with my friend Liz, and my ex took the teens and my younger children into the cemetery to go snoop around. So we're sitting in the car, and mind you, it's all, orchards, as Rikki had mentioned. It's all farmhouses. There's no lights back there. There's no street lights. And we didn't want to get in trouble. So it's pitch dark, no lights on in the car. Liz and I are sitting there, and we're just talking, and she's asking me how I feel about having another baby. We're just gossiping as women do. So we were parked perpendicular to like the street and where the entrance was to the cemetery. And you could see down the street where the view is, so we could see them coming in and out basically. And as we're talking, I looked down the street and I saw a light. And it wasn't what you could consider to be a car light. And it certainly wasn't a street light. There's no street lights back there, but it was a light. And so I mentioned to Liz, I said, "Hey, do you see that?" And she said, "I do. What is that?" And I said, "I don't know." So we very quietly just observed and watched. And it got closer and closer and closer. And it's floating. And this light eventually began to be the outward of a person. It was taking shape as a person. We're still quietly watching. We're not saying anything. We're just watching. And she's coming closer. Then we could see the outline of a woman holding a shawl over her like this. And she's walking. As she gets closer, then you could see eyes. You could see a nose. You could see lips. You could see her hands holding this shawl over her. And
Wow.
we still are just watching quietly. When she was about 3 yards in front of my car, we could clearly see that it was this floating person just coming towards us. Just then, she disappeared. And at the same time, my friend and I felt this electric charge through our bodies, like your hair standing up on end. And she said she just walked right through us. And I
Oh
said, "I
my
think so." And
God.
then we screamed, which we probably shouldn't have done, but we weren't scared. We were excited because she just came right through us.
That's crazy.
So they heard the scream and we began texting. She's texting her teenagers and I'm texting my ex and saying, "Come back. You're not going to see anything because we just saw her." She
She
just
just
came
walked through
right
us.
for us.
Oh my
And
goodness.
that was exciting. Of course, I mean, I couldn't believe it. That was the best sighting of a ghost that I'd ever seen. And she literally came right for me.
I,
About a
I
week.
dated her. I,
Did you like her shawl, Rikki? Did you like her shawl?
Oh my
But
goodness.
a week later, here's where things were a little trippy for a while. So it was the first day of school. I dropped my daughter off to first grade, I want to say, maybe second grade. No, first grade. And then I dropped off the younger one to, I think it was his like 4-year preschool. And I thought, okay, I get to come home. When you have a new baby baking, you don't really feel that great and you're really tired and a little nauseous. And I thought, I'm
Mhm.
just going to lay back and I'm going to turn on a movie and get a little rest before I have to pick them up again. So I came home, I laid down in the family room, turned on the TV, kicked up my feet, had gotten a cup of tea. I was so excited about relaxing. And then, you kind of forget for a minute. It's the first day back to school. I hear running upstairs, up and down the hallway, like kids running. And I yelled up, "What are you guys doing?" And then I thought, they're not here.
Like, I'm home by myself.
They're at
What's going
school.
on?
No one's here. And at that moment, a friend called me and said, "Hey, you want to go meet for breakfast?" I said, "Yes, let's go meet for breakfast right now.
Get
Yes,
me
I
out of
need
this
to go
house.
somewhere. I'm not going to be in this house right
I'm all
now."
done.
No.
I don't want to be here anymore.
And then it only lasted for maybe another couple of weeks of strange things going missing. I'm a creature of habit where I put my keys. My keys would go missing. They would end up in really strange places. And then the kids, when they check out the library books at school,
Mm-hmm.
we had a designated place where I'd put those library books, and they just went missing. And I had to pay for them because I was never able to find them. So years go by, and when I began homeschooling and I was redoing the office area to make it into a classroom, and going through things, there was this red bin underneath the desk that had coloring books. The kids were getting older. I'm sorting through these. I'm going to give some of them away. And the very bottom of that bin were the library books.
Oh my gosh. I just got the chills.
Who would put them there? I know I didn't. My children want to take the time. Hey, let's go hide the library books under this big pile of coloring books. Like, it was just odd. So the last thing I can say about that, and then there was never anything else anymore. Exactly a year goes by, the following August. And some good friends of mine were coming to town to visit, and they wanted to stay here. And we were going to be out of town. We were going to come back. So they were coming in on the Friday night. We were coming back Saturday afternoon. I left them a key. I said, "Come inside, make yourselves comfortable. I'll see you when I get back tomorrow." So I got back and I made dinner. We all ate. Kids went to bed. And then my friend said, "I need to talk to you about something." I said, "Well, what's up?" And he said, "Well, something happened last night at your house that I think that you should be made aware of." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "Well, his daughter and himself were sitting in my kitchen at the table talking late at night. And they saw something move from the living room into the dining room, a white figure. And they were kind of scared, but they kind of looked over. And then she walked back the other way and disappeared out the window behind where the piano is in my house." And he had never heard that story. I never told him my story. So I told him, he said, "You never told me that you have ghosts in your house." And I said, "Well, I didn't think I did anymore." I think this is my theory. I think that, and you know more about this, Rikki, with this lady in white, if it's the same one, but I wonder if the grave that she mourns is a child's. And because I was newly pregnant, she felt this attachment to me. Maybe she came back once again to check on the baby. I don't really know. But there's been nothing ever since. And that's years ago now.
So yeah, I think these stories get embellished, and it's tough to get to the crux of it, which is what I do. That's the thing I like to do.
Hmm.
But I have heard a lot of the same things. There's some artwork of the lady in white. I don't know if you've seen any of it.
No.
Um, yeah, it's pretty interesting. There was a few artists that depicted it. And people say they get in the car, she'll get in the car and drive for a while. But there's been a lot, that it's one of the highest accidents is on the 126.
I didn't know
Huge amount. It's called like Blood Alley or something. So,
that.
and a lot of people think and a lot of it is in that condensed area for some reason in that spot. But there is a graveyard where a lot of the kids that died in the St. Francis Dam flood are buried. Lauren and I have been to that cemetery a few times, and there's one area called, I think there's a lot of, I forget how many. It's called Heartbreak Corner, and it's where all the children are buried.
Oh.
And
Oh.
but it feels very, very calm. It doesn't feel bad at all. It doesn't feel, there's nothing negative or evil. So I took Lucy, and we actually have photos of some of the kids that died in the St. Francis. And
Oh.
we matched their photos to who was buried there, which is a very weird thing. And Lucy ran over and started hugging the tombstones. Like
Oh
she
my
felt
God.
bad for the kids. Yeah.
Now
It
that's
was,
on private property, right? Because I know I wanted to
it
go see it
is.
and I tried to find it, but you have to schedule that because if you just walk up, they are not very happy about it. I know that.
No, and the other thing, and you can't create a cemetery that looks any more scary Hollywood, old, Bela Lugosi than that place. But it got sold to a builder, and we don't know what's going to become of that cemetery now.
Oh,
Do you
wow.
mean that
So
they're going to actually remove it?
I don't know what they're going to do, but they're going to do construction up there.
Oh,
They're going to
that's
do
not
like
okay.
no,
That's,
it's so all that stuff is going to go away, I guess. I mean, what are they going to have? This like beautiful, new modern, track houses, and then this creepy old cemetery in the middle of it. I mean,
Mm.
no.
I don't think they're going to go for that. You know what I mean? I don't know what they're going to do. So if you buy the
Yeah.
property, the bodies go with it. Maybe you can answer this. I don't know.
I have to look
From
into
a
that.
yeah, from a true crime
Yeah,
perspective,
that would be a really interesting case to cover. Like do a deep
Like if
dive.
I bought a house and somebody had been killed and they're buried on the property, it's like, whoa, 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 please.
So, well,
That's my property.
yeah, well, you have to, when I was getting into real estate, you have to disclose if it's been within 3 years, if there was a death in the house or on the property or something like that. After 3 years, you don't have to say anything unless it's brought up. So if somebody's like, is there
Right.
anything I should know? Like, did anybody die here or, on the property anywhere? Then you have to say, well, actually, it used to be a cemetery. So
I think what happened with Tracy is I think that spirit followed her
I
home
agree.
for whatever reason, related to her, probably thought you were really cool. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I liked your
And
vibe.
maybe saw, yeah, maybe saw some of herself in you or something. Um, and that brings me to this whole thing of, what is all this stuff? What is all this stuff? Is it
Yeah.
are there really spirits? Is it really does somebody have to be dead? Or what everybody that's dead has a spirit floating around, they can haunt you, or only some people? And there's all these crazy questions, right? I was able to make friends with Alexandra Holzer, who was Hans Holzer's daughter. So she created the Holzer Files, which was on TV.
That's
And
crazy. Wow.
we wanted to do a show together. And I still would love to do something with her, but she's become a bit religious, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but she seemed less interested in talking about ghosts the last time I talked to her. But she explained a lot of things. She's actually on one of my podcasts. I don't do a podcast. One of my YouTube videos. Um, but you know, the more I've been thinking about this stuff, I'm starting to go down different avenues with my thought process on what all of this is. Okay. I think we give it all these names, and I think the names that we give a lot of this stuff is antiquated. I think just the name ghost is probably an antiquated name for what
Yeah.
we experience. Okay. And, you had that, who was it? The magician that did the paranormal. What's the matter with me? I swear to God, I'm in cognitive decline. We had that one magician that was an illusionist that did this paranormal challenge, and he had $1 million and wrote a check and said, if you can prove anything paranormal in an environment, you bring it every year to the council. And we have a council of people, we have all the paranormal people, prove it, and I'll write the check to you. And after 15 years, nobody was
Nobody
able to
has.
prove it. And that was including
Interesting.
That's
psychics and
very
all this kind of
interesting.
stuff. So why is this? A lot of the psychics would say, well, we're not, performing monkeys and all this kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, but you would think once it would, you're going to do fortune telling for $40 a couple times a day for the rest of your life, or do you want $1 million check? I mean, once, bam, here we go. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so I'm starting to believe that what we experience is part of consciousness. I know that sounds hippie and like crazy, like, oh, consciousness, bro. But honestly, without consciousness, we would not know we're here. We would not know anything. We wouldn't be able to perceive anything, you know. Consciousness is really life. It really is what life is. It might even be what our soul is in a way, if you look at it. So
Yeah.
that being said, is it consciousness that is the thing that connects us all sometimes? Like we don't always connect consciousness, but how many times have you met somebody and you're like, wow, I just groove with you right off the bat? You know, it's not, you
Yeah.
know, let's take away all the stuff where it's like, maybe you're attracted to that person. Maybe you're not attracted to them. Maybe they're not, maybe they don't fit any of the normal things that would make you go, you know, that's somebody I connect with. So how do you connect very deeply with certain people very quickly? Where does that come from? Okay. And, you know, I mean, this phone is atoms and you're atoms, but you have consciousness and this phone doesn't, but it's still made up of atoms. So why? You know, you can say, well, brain matter. So, but brain matter gave us consciousness. You go round and round with all this, right? So it's starting to think that there's more to it than that. These physicists are starting to talk about how we could have up to 11 dimensions.
Wow.
And it was explained to me like this by a physicist. I was on a flight and I'm like, oh boy, are you going to get some questions from me? Okay. And I looked this up, and AI says that consciousness is viewed as a profound connector bridging individual experience with a potential shared or collective awareness. While neuroscience often treats it as personal biological phenomenon, emerging theories and philosophical views suggest that it acts as a field or quantum driven link connecting us to others and the wider universe.
Wow.
So that's, and I had not looked at that definition before. But anyway, so the way it was described to me is, let's pretend we're polywogs, right? And we're in this water floating. The only thing we're ever going to know is this stream and water and each other and trying to look for food or whatever. And one day, a little kid comes over at camp and reaches down and grabs a polywog and pulls him out. And he sees this whole other world and all this other stuff, right? And he drops him back in the water. And that polywog tells everybody, you have no idea what happened to me. And everyone's like, yeah, right. Conspiracy theory, you know. that that is kind of like what reaching into another dimension might be like, where it doesn't always happen, but when it does, and how do you get there? Well, you go to the place where there's more humans to pull you out of the water, right? Maybe it'll happen more often. And so I think as psychic investigators and all this kind of stuff, then you know, maybe our equipment's antiquated, maybe our idea of investigating might be a little bit you know, getting long in the tooth, but I think the idea that you can connect on that level, it's like some of the folks that just went on this investigation on Friday with taps didn't bring any equipment. They didn't bring any of the typical IRE,
Oh.
any of that stuff, but
Ooh.
just brought themselves.
Oh,
You know,
that's
it's like,
cool.
and Jolene, who's one of our psychics, is, you know, she had so much to say that we were like people taking notes and they look it up, and what she was saying was true. The people that had died, what their, you know, I mean, she got all three initials right of one of the deceased, which
Wow.
when you go, I'm thinking of somebody with a C, you know, somebody's going to go, oh, yeah, well,
Yeah.
Granddad Charles, you know. No, she was nailing it. Okay. Like this was different level.
She's a nice
So,
lady. She actually sent me a friend request on Facebook, and I saw that she was friends with you and Lauren, so I accepted it. And she's a doll. What a sweetheart she
oh,
is.
she's the best. Yeah. Her
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Harley are really good. Yeah, they're good people. And she's a doll. I like her a lot. All the people in my group are just I'm really proud to be part of that.
That's awesome.
Jerry runs a
Love
very
that.
tight ship over there, and so when we go into a situation, it's professional. Like when we did the Winchester house, it was. We were nervous because I mean that was that's a big commercial place for all intents and purposes. You know what I mean? It's like how are we going to conduct ourselves? Are we going to do a good job of this? And I was nervous. I had never taken a group of people, let alone 8 groups of people, on a paranormal experience. I had never done that before.
Wow.
I work
Wow.
alone for the most part. I've had Lauren go with me on certain things, but when I do paranormal stuff, I'm by myself usually. I get up at 4 in the morning and go somewhere and uh,
I'm still jealous that you stayed at the Santa Paula Inn because I still want to do that and I want to stay in that room. That is on my
go.
list. I'm
Do
You know
going.
it.
what? Just
Do
go.
it.
Just go. Glen Tavern Inn. It's
Glen,
wonderful and
yep,
it's
I've
so
been
cool.
there, but I haven't stayed there. I'm trying to find
Yeah.
someone that will go with me that isn't too afraid because I'm not afraid. I'm bring it on,
I'll
but I don't
go.
know anyone.
I wish you lived closer. Be like, yes, let's do it.
Oh, I know.
Where do you
Maybe if
live?
you come down
I live
sometime.
in Lodi. I live up by Sacramento,
Oh, okay. All
like in
right.
between Modesto and Sacramento. I'm like this wine
Right.
country area. Tiny
Yeah.
little
Yeah. It's
Lodi.
beautiful up there. Yeah.
I have another ghost story to share if you want to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the one when you asked earlier what the scariest thing was because I didn't feel like the lady in white was, she didn't terrify me, but this particular thing absolutely did. So, the house that I lived in with my ex when my daughter, before she was born and then until she was 2 years old, was a very old house in Hollywood. It was off of Highland and Melrose.
Okay.
And the house, the original house had burned. So they built a house in the 40s and you could see the original, like, what do you call that? The
The foundation?
foundation of the old house where they built it kind of in the
Mm-hmm.
foundation, but there was a fire there.
Oh.
So I remember moving there and not really sensing anything at all at first. Nothing really happened. And then as I began to put a nursery together, is when some strange things started to happen. And my aunt, who's no longer with us, but she was also very much into paranormal stuff. And she said, look at that picture. There's a lot of souls out there because of the orbs. And these were definitely orbs. They weren't insects or anything, but they were curious about this crib and the baby that was going to be in that crib for sure. And she pointed that out to me. So I remember the first thing that happened, and at first I thought it was me. I thought that I was just paranoid or something. The way the house was, it was a 2 bedroom, very small bungalow style house. And there was a hallway with our bedroom here and then the nursery over here. And my babies rarely slept in a crib because I spoiled them and let them sleep with me, but I tried. I remember going to get my daughter and bringing her back. And as I walked down the hallway, and this began to be a nightly thing, even if it was just going to the changing table or if it was just walking there, I could feel someone walking right behind me and I could feel their breath on my neck.
Mm.
And at first, I just thought this is just, I must be hallucinating. I'm just, blow it off, Tracy. Don't worry about it. So when my daughter was around 6 months old and she was sitting in her high chair, and you let them play with a spoon and they're eating, she began to always turn to her left and try to feed someone. And this was a daily occurrence. So when she got old enough to speak, and then when they're using their fingers to eat, she would try to offer food. And I said, honey, who are
Who's
you feeding? And she said, the man.
what man?
I'm
What do
like,
you mean the
oh,
man?
okay. So she would talk about the man often. Well, then she got to an age, I'm going to say this was shortly before we moved. We moved out of the house. She began to talk about the man more. And then one day I went in the kitchen to open the refrigerator to make lunch. And she said, Mommy, stop. And I said, what? And she said, grab him's behind you. And I said, who's grab him? She said, grab him's the man. He's behind you like this. He's about to grab
Oh,
you. And that's when I said, oh, okay, that's where things are getting creepy. I
No
said,
touching grab-ums.
what does grab him look like? She said, the man? I said, yeah, what's the man look like? And he said, well, he kind of looks like daddy. He has dark hair and he always has his hands like this, like he wants to grab you.
So that's why
That's
she called them grab-ums.
that's comforting. So
Sounds like a new horror film to me.
It does.
Yeah.
so
100%.
here's something else that began to happen as well. So I had set up, the house had hardwood floors, and I had this little area with this huge kind of little gate thing and those foam tiles for a little play area
Mhm.
for her when she was a baby, so I can kind of put her in there to play when I'm trying to do dishes or clean up or whatever. And of course, the kid toys these days are electronic and they make sounds. Every night at the stroke of 3 a.m., those toys would go off. Every single night, to the point where I'd wake up to the toys going off. I'd end up watching something on TV for a while and then finally fall back to sleep once the sound ended, which was around 3:30 a.m. For half an hour, it's like somebody was in there playing with those toys.
It was grab-em.
And I mean, there was no one there, obviously. No one was in there, but they would just go off on their own, always at 3 a.m. So I noted that and found it strange and just kind of, Then we were packing up to move. And this was the night that I will never forget. So when you're packing and you have bags, you're getting rid of clothing or whatever things you don't want to take with you as you're moving. So I was in the bedroom and I think I had just gotten Avonlea to fall asleep. And my little tiny chihuahua came running in and she was crying to please get me up onto the bed right now. She was terrified. And so I picked her up and I thought, what's wrong, Bibi? What's the matter? And I got her onto the bed. And then I heard footsteps run into the bedroom, but there was nothing there. And then you saw the plastic bags that were on the ground. You heard it and saw the footsteps over the plastic bags, but there was nothing there. And I thought, am I seeing things? Was there an animal that got into the house, or did a mouse get in the house or something? No, a mouse would not have made this kind of noise, these footsteps or
Wow.
stepping over the bags where I saw the bags move. I did check the closet. I checked, there was nothing there. And
Were
my
you by
dog was
yourself?
terrified. Yes. And I could not wait to get out of that house. So, yes, that house. And I had people who came over and they said later that they felt something there. And I think you said the same thing, correct? Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't I didn't feel like it was malevolent at all, or like I feel that maybe the reason why he was like this is maybe he might have been a burn victim and that's just how,
Oh. See,
yeah.
I never saw him. Only my daughter did. And of course, younger children are able, they're still
Mhm.
connected. She doesn't really have a memory of seeing him now, but she has the memory of knowing. And
Yeah,
she knows what grab him is and she remembers this, but she can't really visualize
that's an
him
amazing
anymore.
story. I remember you telling
Mm.
me that one before. That was a very intense one. I really
Hmm.
enjoyed that one.
Oh, my
Well,
heart rate was up.
I mean, there was that doctor recently at NYU who was taking people that had died and doing MRIs for several days on their brain. And up to 2 or 3 days, he was still getting consciousness, flickers of consciousness with dead
Really?
brains. So, I mean, what happens if somebody shotguns somebody's brains all over a wall? I mean, all their molecules, everything else, it's there, right? That consciousness is there. I'm going
Yes.
back to that again.
Wow.
But I mean, like if we go with traditional ideas of all this stuff, and let's go back to that for a second, and ghosts and spirits and people that have passed on and crossed over and this and that. It's no wonder some act, but malevolent, and some act. You're talking about some people go in. You have to have respect. That's all I can
Hmm.
say. If anybody is listening to your show and they want to try this stuff on their own, the only thing I can say is if you're dealing, let's if you think you're dealing with a person and you're dealing with the spirit of a person, if that's what you really think you're dealing with, then don't be an asshole. And that's all I can say.
I
Because
agree. Mhm.
what is somebody on the other side going to think? And do
Yeah.
they always feel like dealing with you? Do they feel like being a little bit of a dick once in a while, or you know what I mean?
Blowing off some steam.
I'm yeah, I mean, they could. I mean, we
Yeah.
all interact every day going into the Starbucks and somebody opens a door and somebody doesn't give a shit. And somebody, we're all different personalities, and all these things are you got to take in consideration when dealing with maybe somebody in the spirit world. And if it isn't the quote unquote spirit world, then it's. I mean, look, we're connected to the cosmos. There's no doubt about it. We have iron. Part of us is iron, right? Okay, it's
Yeah.
one of the elements. Stars, the core of every star in the universe is iron. I
We are
mean, we were
stardust.
literally. We are
Yeah.
literally made from the same elements that are in the cosmos. You know what I mean? So, when somebody's talking about flying up somewhere or connecting, of course I think that we can connect on many different levels. And is it that intention, or is it like there's, a lot of times there's things that surround marriages, right? And somebody dying on a marriage day or something like that. I mean, I can understand that because this is the biggest day of your life and you're mixing it with the worst day of your life.
Yeah.
That invokes some serious emotions, right?
Yeah.
Serious. Death is a serious emotion, you know. You know, uh, uh, so I mean, it's no wonder that this energy goes out and doesn't die. It's changing.
And that's what it is. I think that's really what it is energy.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
I
I
actually
do
had
too.
a few years back, and it was the day before Mother's Day. I was having some issues. I have asthma really bad, and I was also sick with an upper respiratory infection, and my allergies were just all haywired out. And I ended up in the hospital a few times with really bad asthma attacks. And one night, I had a friend, I was over at a friend's house, and I remember we were laughing one minute and then I dropped the second minute. Like it was the next thing I remember is being woken up to the ambulance there and the medics taking me downstairs. And I'm really claustrophobic, so I'm trying to tell them I don't want to be in the ambulance. Just give me the breathing treatment. But I can't talk. My oxygen was at 62 at that point. So
Ooh.
I'm like all like space cadet, like know what I want to say, but can't articulate it, like can't get it out. So I start kind of, going to a little bit of a panic mode. And then they strapped me to the gurney, like strapped me down. And that freaked me out. So
Oh
then I start
no.
really panicking, and then my oxygen drops even more, and they give me a shot of something. And the last thing I remember was I love how quick and boop, I was out, lights out. So I wake up the next morning in the hospital, but I had a really weird dream. And when I
Oh.
came to, like, the doctor just happened to be in there when I woke up, and he said, "Oh, welcome back. This is what happened to you. I flatlined for 60 seconds." And the dream, what I was seeing was all I remember was I was in an empty black space, kind of like I am right now, minus the white down. But it was just, I was just walking like I was in a waiting room, like I'm waiting at the DMV, but it was just like an empty black space. And then I had like a feeling of like a rush. And then that's when I woke up and he's like, "Oh yeah, like that's what," and I called him a liar. I'm like, "No, that didn't happen." And he's like, "Well, yeah, it did. They had to shock me back." And so he was asked, he's like, "How do you feel?" And I'm like, "I feel like I hit by lightning." And he's like, "That's because we had to defibrillate you to get your heartbeat back." And um, so yeah, I just thought that was like the weirdest experience, like that.
What happened to you? Why did
So
this happen?
my heart, when they gave me the epidural, it put me into tachycardia, and then it was
Oh,
just
okay.
too much for my heart, and it just kind of went, "Ugh, we're done. We're gonna take a time out for a minute." But they were,
Wow.
and I remember telling my dad this
Well,
story, and he was just like, "It's you were exactly you were in a waiting room, like you knew that you were consciously knew you were coming back, which I would have never left my son." I only had, Dylan at that time, and this was after our house burnt down, so he was probably about 9, 8.
He was still pretty young when that happened,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And
Oh
it
my
was
God.
Mother's Day that I ended up in the hospital. So when they gave my clothes back, everything was cut up. And I'm like, why are my clothes cut in half? It's like, because we had to shock you. That was the quickest way to get
Oh
you.
yeah, right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is quite an experience. Like it's like wow. Um, the other thing I wanted to mention this to you too because I forgot to mention this when I was talking about Alexandra Holzer. Um, One thing she explained to me too, and for all the viewers and everything else that everybody else that's listening, or I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of people that want to do this kind of stuff, right? That listen to you, or maybe already are doing it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Maybe more experience than we have. Who knows? But one thing she said was, there's basically three kinds of ghosts. Okay, you have residual hauntings. Basically, there's sounds, there's all these things going on. They don't interact with you. It's just that's
Hmm.
where they are. And I think that's the basis for most urban legends. Okay.
I agree.
Um, a- and then there is intelligent hauntings. Basically, I see you, you see
You see
me.
me.
Okay.
It's some
So we
tango.
can talk. And then there's poltergeists, which are sometimes malevolent. They'll throw things, break things, let you know they're there. Not always, they're not always trying to hurt you, but they shake up their environment. Okay. And you could say that that is residual haunting, but they can also hear what you're saying. So they're kind of, but if you see a mix of those three things, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
That's what she said. She said, I always know when somebody's bullshitting when they try to explain all three phenomenons at once. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's super, super interesting. And what does that mean then? If all three things are happening, is it demonic infestation, if you want to believe in demons and believe in all that stuff,
Oof.
maybe, so then that's kind of where I feel like, was going. She didn't verbalize that, but now that she's become more religious, I feel like that, and she just
Yeah.
wants to stay away from it now. She's had her entire life has been hauntings, 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 all her life, when she was a little girl all the way up to a full-grown woman with a bunch of children. you
I
know,
I
You know,
understand that. I can relate to that, unfortunately, with
I
stuff
have a
like that.
question for you, Rikki, or actually both of you. What do you think about these haunted items? The
Mm.
supposed haunted items or belongings or things.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts about that?
cursed
Yes.
items like the
Hmm.
like the Annabelle doll and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't have anything that's cursed. I've opened a Dybbuk box and it's on
What?
who knows who. Yeah, yeah, so I've
Oh
opened
my
those, and
God.
I have quite a Ouija board collection. I've got, and to me, objects are objects, so I don't know. I don't really know that they have any power. I think we give it power. I think we give things power. It's just like the Amityville house. I've always said this. A lot of people say it's not haunted, it's a bunch of bullshit. Well, okay, maybe not. We do know that grisly murder really happened there, several grisly murders, but that's real. That's true crime. But is it haunted? Okay. Well, we have put so much faith into it being haunted. How can it not be? It's kind of like saying Santa Claus doesn't exist. Okay. But yeah, every year we decorate for Santa Claus. We do all these things for Santa Claus, and it's fake, right?
Yes,
Doesn't
Santa's not.
exist.
I'm Santa
Maybe he
Claus.
does, but the spirit of Santa Claus is that kind of.
That
So
makes
that's kind
sense.
of playing. It's kind of playing things down, and it's kind of like saying God's the spaghetti monster. I mean, but I don't mean to do that, okay? Because I really don't. I'm just saying that if you give something enough energy, is it that now? Is it that thing now? So if we take an object and give it that much energy, the Annabelle doll, you know, it's like when you meet somebody that you really looked up to, and you have this moment, right? When you meet them, it's like, oh my God, I'm finally meeting David Bowie or whatever, when I did, it was like, that's almost a paranormal experience, right? When you put that much emotion into somebody, into
Yeah.
something. And but I think the real test, for something like that, this is what you'd have to do: get a psychic in a room, and you sit down and you say, I have eight paranormal objects, and I have eight objects that are not paranormal. And I'm going to put one in your right hand and one in your left hand, and you're blindfolded, and you have to tell me which one is a haunted item. Put Annabelle in one person's hand and put a regular doll in somebody else's, and ask them to tell the difference. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe that would be the ultimate test, right? Or anybody,
They're
any
gonna feel it.
mortal,
They'll
you
feel
know?
it. It's
Will
the,
they?
well, I feel like that they will. I mean, that I'm saying that just based off of things that I have experienced myself. I pick up on energies a lot. So I'm always able to feel like I've done walkthroughs unintentionally on friends' houses, where I'll pick up on things and I'll start asking questions, and they're like, "How did you know that? Like, what do you mean? How do you know this person's name?" Like, or there's things that I've picked up on that they didn't even know, and then they did some digging, and it turned out like, "Oh, yeah, you did pick up on that." That's just me, though. I mean, it's everybody's different, but I
Yeah.
I feel like if somebody handed me something, I wouldn't need to see it. I would be able to feel it. I'd be drawn to which one is giving off that energy.
Well,
I
I
don't know if
mean,
that makes sense.
at the end of the day, what I believe, for example, is irrelevant, really. What's the truth is what's relevant.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And so it's, you know, what is the truth, and what, truth is out there, right? So
yeah, it
all we
is.
can do is continue to collect evidence. But how do you collect, if honestly all this stuff really does come down to consciousness and us connecting? What is love? I mean, still to this day science can't truly define it. There's all this talk about, well, it's just one of these innate things that makes us propagate our species, and it's something that's come through evolution, and the idea of there's the gene that makes us believe in God, and some of us have it and some don't. There's all these pieces of evidence, or not, that's
Yeah.
out there, and I think we're just beginning to figure it out. I think when we do have quantum computing, I think a lot of these questions are going to get answered, because it's going to be able to calculate all these possibilities so fast, so incredibly fast, that our heads are going to spin like The Exorcist, and we're going to be like, "Whoa,"
Oh
you
my
know what I
God.
mean? You know, and
I'm so
and
angry with myself because when that event happened with the lady in white, it was 2013, but I had an iPhone with a camera on it. But it didn't occur to me at the time to pick up that phone out of my purse and start recording, because I was so in shock about
right.
what I was seeing that I mean, now because it's been, I mean, gosh, what, that's 12 years ago. So I pick up my phone more for things like that. We're using, the camera phones, or we've had them for a long time now. We know to do that. But even 12 years ago, it didn't occur to me to pick up my phone and try to see if I could get something on camera. And that
There's
kills me all the time because I wished I would have.
At this point in time, there's more cell phones with cameras on Earth than there are humans.
You're
Yeah,
absolutely
That that's a
right.
absolutely.
That's a
that's a
fact.
real statistic. So
That's
it's like,
wild.
why do we still not have a picture of Bigfoot or any compelling? Now we have to
Mm.
deal with AI, right?
Yeah,
and,
what's
and
real? What's
so
Ah,
not? So
so
annoying.
so let's say Tracy goes back to this place, And the lady in white appears again because she likes Tracy. And Tracy's like, you know what? I'm going to remember this shit. And everyone's like, oh, it's AI,
It's
Tracy.
Yeah,
AI.
Bullshit.
Yeah, that's true.
that is
You
very
know,
true.
it's like, it's harder and harder to collect evidence now. And I feel like it's compelling. It really, really is. Our eyes deceive us. Now what we hear deceives us. It's getting harder and harder all the time.
Yeah. We just
Wow.
got a 10-minute warning.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Just to get everybody a heads up. We
Yeah.
got 9 minutes and
Yeah.
33 seconds.
Well, I will say
Yeah.
this.
Well,
I
that's
did
good.
a few years ago bring someone back with me to try to see if I could see her again. I won't mention who the person was because I don't want to do that, but this person became very terrified and wanted to leave.
Oh,
And I'm like, why are you scared? It's not scary. It's fun. And he was a male person who said, no, I can't be here anymore. I'm terrified. I'm shaking.
okay.
We have to go. And I said, oh, okay. It's not scary, but
Well, it's
okay.
crazy to
Well, I
me
mean,
that there are people that have these amazing experiences, and then you have people like my other half who doesn't believe in any of it because he's never experienced it. And he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Although he has experienced things like me experiencing things like, I don't know if that
Yes.
makes any sense. But then he's just like, what's wrong with you? Are you crazy? Like,
I think that unless you do experience it, you're
mhm.
never going to be able to understand it. Like just with anything in life,
Yeah,
you have to be that person. And because I have experienced things throughout my life since I was a child, I do believe there's something there.
I
I
do
do.
too.
I've seen it.
I do too. And then going back to what you were saying, Ricky, with like the Amityville Horror House, like how do we know it really is haunted? I think the best answer from my perspective would be to try to experience it for yourself. That would be the only way really people would it just completely organically, no cameras, no nothing. If you really want to know, just sit in that space and see what
Mhm.
happens. That's the
Well,
best way
I
to do
mean,
it.
let's go back to this consciousness thing for just a second. And I know I'm drilling this into the ground, but if that's what it is, and it's just like love, and love is not really an emotion in and of itself. It's a collected collection of things uh, that at least that's how it's been described. But um, can you take a picture of it? You can take a picture of who you
Yeah,
think you're in love with, or that. But
That makes
so
I
sense.
get it.
maybe you literally can't at this point in time get evidence of something. Maybe you can light up the brain, if you look at it with emotion, and there's a love part of the brain maybe, or a hate, or I mean these are all intense emotions that somebody puts out there, like for example, like these Indian burial grounds. You've heard about that, and the intense hatred for the white man who's you
Mhm.
know uh, has defaced their stuff. I mean, does that anger, does that hatred go away? Is it everlasting when you have that much hatred for what's been
That's a
done?
good question.
Desecration has been done. So maybe the love, the longing for somebody, all these things, or this consciousness that keeps floating around, and Tracy walks into that area, and all of a sudden she's like, "Wow, I feel that," and if I feel it, I can see it. You can't see it, maybe. Maybe you can if you're connected with me and that. But I can't take a picture of it. It's not going to come out. I, you know, and I think maybe that might be more what we're dealing with when we're dealing with the paranormal. And paranormal is a blanket thing. It's anything that's
Oh
not
yeah.
normal, and anything that we can't like describe, an element of water, we can break it down, and these different things. And that paranormal is something outside of that. Right?
Maybe
What
because
is
it's
that?
so unexplained is why it's so interesting and exciting. For some of us,
Yeah.
I'm sure some people don't agree with that, but because it's
Yeah.
unexplained, it's why I am so intrigued, I think, because we don't really know the answers. I mean, I know what I've seen. You both know what you've seen, but it's still unexplained as to how we were able to see that. it's amazing to me.
I think it
Well,
goes
I mean,
back to
I
what you're
think
saying, Rikki, with the consciousness. Like if you're
Yes.
open-minded and you connect on that type of brain waves, then maybe you are more open and susceptible than other people are who aren't. So
yeah, I mean, what if you do get half drunk and you're like, and your mind's more open, right? No,
yeah.
no, no, I know. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, it makes you laugh and go, yeah, of course you're going to see anything. But what you're more in a relaxed state, you're kind of like more open to stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'm easier to talk to when I've had a couple. You know
I
what I
think
mean? I'm
everybody
more
is,
open to
yeah.
ideas, right?
Oh yeah.
Um,
Jim
but so
Morrison in the desert with peyote or whatever.
Oh Lord.
Popped in my head.
Oh my God.
paranormal peyote.
Yes.
Yes.
I think we need a desert trip.
I
Yeah.
don't know why that popped in
But
my head.
but anyway, all this stuff is just, and then there's some people that aren't sensitive to it. Just like some people never fall in love or they just
Yeah.
don't have much emotion, right? So they're not sensitive in other ways too, maybe. Or
Yeah.
at least maybe in the way of receiving these paranormal messages or um, reaching out from, maybe psychics or people are just super tuned in emotionally, not emotionally. Let's call paranormal an emotion. Let's pretend that's a second, another emotion. Let's pretend that's what that is. It could be, okay? And if it is, some people are more sensitive to it than others, maybe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Interesting take on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very different take on it, but it makes complete sense. Absolutely.
It's kind of like when, if you study serial killers, for instance, they talk about when they have dissected the brains, there's a lot of frontal lobe damage. And they think that a lot of serial killers bumped their head too many times, or moms, dropped them on their head, and now they got this issue. But I've noticed that it's a common denominator in a lot of
Interesting.
serial
Well,
Well,
the
killers.
look at
frontal
look.
lobe is your decision-making part of your brain that doesn't grow, of course, as parents, all of us, we know that doesn't really grow until
Oh God.
25. And also being younger people at one time, I know that in my
Oh,
early 20s, I wasn't making great decisions. But yes, I can see how a damage there, brain damage, would cause that. That's terrifying.
yeah.
Wow.
I always
Yeah,
get
I
worried
mean,
when my 2-year-old like falls and bumps his head. I'm like, oh my gosh.
No, I don't want you to be a serial killer. Don't
What
hurt
about I
yourself.
put you in a helmet?
Bubble
no,
wrap
I
him.
think I think that happens with fighters sometimes. They start to
Yeah.
become more, I mean, I've been in the martial arts for 27 years, and there's a difference between being a martial artist and being a martial artist that is easy to get bent on somebody's destruction. That's kind of a different headspace, you know what I mean? And they're the ones that make the best fighters, the ones that literally don't give an F, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And maybe it's just
All that
enough
head.
times. And, you start to lose that empathy, you know what I mean? Or you can turn it on differently. I've seen people turn it on where they're like really cool people. And then all of a sudden they
They're
get hit a
like
couple times and it's
switch.
like all of a sudden it's a different ball game. Weird. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, Tracy, for being the conduit
Yeah.
for this
Thank you
I'm so
both.
happy
conversation.
we did this. What
Me
fun.
too. I'm so excited. Thank you both for coming
Yes, good
on and being a
stories.
part of my podcast.
And I'm
Thank
dragging your
you.
butt out sometime, Tracy. So you wait and see.
Yes, please do, because I do want to go and on an adventure with you, and I don't really do anything, and I need to like do more stuff.
You
So
should go
yes.
Okay.
check out let's
Got it.
see.
Challenge
It's
accepted.
gonna
Yay.
cut
I like
us
that.
off. Yeah.
Bye, you guys. Have a wonderful evening. I'm
Bye.
gonna go
Thank
start
All
cooking
right.
dinner
you.
now.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.